Welcome to my first video of 2024. Basically, I want a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters remake, and I'm here to make a case as to why this show needs one.
Dark magic attack!
Over the years, there have been quite a few remakes and reboots of anime that were big when I was younger. Sailor Moon got one, Yu Yu Hakusho, Digimon Adventure, even Dragon Ball Z got a recut with Kai. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fun shonen anime that somehow manages to have the action of monster battles and high-stakes magic, all while centering it around something as mundane as a trading card game. Like many anime, it's essentially an episodes-long ad for a product. During the first season though, it was just getting its footing. The rules for the card game were all over the place, and in some ways, it was more like Dungeons and Dragons than a card game with definitive rules. There's the infamous example of Yugi's monster attacking the moon, which is a spell card, not a monster card. Another example though is the Toon archetype monsters, which work completely differently in the anime than in the real life card game. In fact, when they show up later in the anime, they work like they do in real life. So it would be fun to see how the fully developed Duel Monsters card game would look in this early season. How would the duels change? How would the king of games win without basically relying on the logic of roleplay rules to win against his opponents? Speaking of differences between the anime card game and the real life card game, Konami could actually use this remake to its advantage and revisit classic cards based on the anime. For example, Mystical Elf has an ability that we only ever see once in the anime, allowing you to transfer its attack points to one other monster you control. That would make for a nice addition to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, an effect monster that has this anime effect. You could even make some collector's items for us nostalgic fans of the original series. During Yugi's second duel with Kaiba, Yugi fuses Mammoth Graveyard with Kaiba's Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, another example of Dungeons and Dragons roleplay shenanigans. This fusion monster was never released, but why not release it along with this remade anime? It would make a great collector's item, even if it would make sense as an actual game legal card. But then maybe it could spark a whole other actual fusion monster, a kind of monster token that only works with Mammoth Graveyard. What do you think? A Yu-Gi-Oh! Remake could also have less continuity issues too. For example, Ishizu presents Yugi and Kaiba's past lives as rivals, antagonists. In the final season though, when the main characters go into the world of Atem's memories, Priest Seto is loyal to Pharaoh Atem, and there is no example of them dueling against each other. Apparently, Kazuki Takahashi had deadline issues and was sick for some time, which impacted the story he got to tell. So a remake could allow a new story to be posthumously closer to his original intention. Even something as unimportant to the story as the fact that Ishizu's visions of ancient Egypt show their past lives as having light skin, while they have darker skin in the final season, could be addressed. I know I'm pedantic, but that always bothered me. There are a few directions that a remake could take. It could be a more faithful adaptation of the manga like they did with Sailor Moon, or it could be an essentially all new story with the same characters as they did with Digimon Adventure. Personally, I prefer a mix of both. Faithful but with enough differences that it doesn't feel like a complete retread of the original anime story. For example, they could bring in some themes from Season 0, which was never adapted in the West. The Season 0 Spirit of the Millennium Puzzle is a lot more, well, evil, or at least unforgiving, than he is in the anime that we know in the West. We do get a bit of this in the Duelist Kingdom arc, but I'd like to see this explored more. It would be interesting to see the kind-hearted Yugi and the judge, jury, and executioner Yugi have a lot more disagreements about how to deal with different situations. So we get to see some development in both characters. Atem learns kindness, Yugi learns confidence. The remade anime could also expand other themes. I've always seen the Red Eyes Black Dragon as a counterpart to the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Maybe we could see this explored. We see that the Blue Eyes White Dragon is the spirit monster of Kisara, a woman who Priest Seto develops a relationship with. But whose spirit monster was the Red Eyes Black Dragon? Is this person related to Kisara in some way? A family member maybe? Maybe there could be some explanation in the ancient past as to why the Red Eyes Black Dragon is destined to be Joey aka Jonochi's monster. Another thing that could be expanded is that of multiple identities in one body. Yugi himself has two, of course. That is purely magical. Marik though? That is clearly something different. I have been wondering for a while whether it is an example of dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, or an example of Marek making a tulpa. Both of these are not well understood by the public and would have to be dealt with very carefully, but I think it could be done. As someone with the idea explains,
so while you're a child, your personalities are distinct, and while you grow up, it's supposed to properly merge and mold into one personality, which is what people who don't have this disorder have. But there are like special breeds of children who not only go through repeated trauma, but has the ability to dissociate at a high level and don't have the opportunity to talk to somebody about what's going on with them. The issue is brain has to now fix the problem for the different personalities between the ages of 5 to 9 years old. So what it does is puts amnesic barriers that can vary in strength between each personality and changes them from personalities to alternative states of mind.
someone with DID can have upwards of 10 different personalities. A tulpa, on the other hand, is a personality consciously created by the person. Some people call it an imaginary friend, but the idea is that a tulpa is mostly autonomous. In other words, has a mind of its own.
I created her. It's how tulpas work. First, you start with an image in your mind of a person or a character you might like. Then you spend some time with her each day. Eventually, she takes on a personality of her own.
Giving a distinct name to what causes the other personality in Marek would raise awareness about people who have these issues, and it would add more nuance to Marek's story. As I said though, this would have to be dealt with carefully, so that people don't come away thinking that people with DID or tulpas are automatically dangerous or something. Hopefully, they'd have a sensitivity consultant who is knowledgeable about or has experience with this. Speaking of Marek though, could we please make this character's Western version have his Arabic name? They choose to call him Marek instead of Malik. Why? He's Egyptian, for crying out loud. If they do make this Yu-Gi-Oh remake, let's leave the Arabophobia behind, shall we? That's all I could think of for now. Do you agree with my points? If you have any you'd like to add, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I've been Ken Kwame, and I'll see you next time.